Where are they at?
We got a camera here. We got a camera here, and there's one up top here.
Aren't they in front of us? Oh, I got it.
Yeah, yeah. So we're
I
on.
got you.
We're on.
Great.
So
So I finally got to meet
I
Adam.
know this is freaking awesome. You walked in. I gotta tell you, you're a lot taller in person than I thought you were gonna be.
Me?
Yeah. Yeah.
6 foot even, I think, if I haven't shrunk over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Why is everybody short and small so they can fit in tight spots?
I don't know. Everyone says I'm taller too than, but
Well, I knew you were.
I'm kind of wider than I think a lot of people are,
I knew you were a bit. I knew you were like 6'1" or 2", something like that.
Yeah, I think 6'1".
Because I had asked you before because I'm really very nosy and we had become friends,
Yeah.
And so over the years, so for like 5 years now, YouTube, we've been back and forth to each other, and
Yeah.
so it was great to meet you. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know, like anyone that has kind of followed me and you over the years, back in the John Israel days, when we were doing those late night hangouts and that.
Man, I mean, I missed that. I'll be honest with you. That was some of the fun stuff to me.
Yeah.
I mean, he never did anything to me.
Yeah. It's funny because now, like,
So
my job is to kind of teach airflow and teach static pressure. And you remember when we got into that?
I remember how wrong you were.
Get out of here.
You absolutely would not.
We got into a big fight about static pressure, and
I don't know if fight is the word, but yeah, you could say that. It went on
Yeah.
for a while, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it was really about static pressure. I think it was just about why there was a marking on the probe.
yeah, right.
So
Yep.
that you knew where it was. And you insisted that it didn't matter, the airflow stream. I insisted that it did. I think we both did a bunch of testing and proved that it really didn't matter, but I'm not much on
Saying you were wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
But
The biggest thing was like when I made that video and you're like, you went downstairs in your pajamas.
well, you showed that was early in your YouTube days.
Yeah.
So you got to realize that, I was kind of picking on the rookie.
Yeah.
And so you're in your socks and your PJ pants, I mean, dude, if you'd have been thinking, so you were focused on, look, I'm going to show this dude that I do know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
And I was the same way. That's what happened with me and John Israel.
Yeah.
Is he was, I never thought he was like a super tech or nothing, but he was a YouTube personality that I had been watching.
Right.
And I just enjoyed his videos, especially in the old days when he was himself.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what's going on with him. We kind of lost touch, but and he made everybody mad, and so all that, whatever. The drama just kind of turns you off and makes you go look for something fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anyway, kind of started out the same way. And that's why he and I argued, because he was always bashing Train. And I, man, it's always on.
It's in your blood.
It's on me somewhere. I mean, my carpet is green in the office. I mean, I'm Train washed.
Right.
And so I would get in there and take up for it. And he was just like this little one-man band dude bashing this huge corporation.
Yeah.
As if he knew something.
Mm-hmm.
And that just made me argue. Honestly, I shouldn't have fell for it. I shouldn't have bit that bait.
I was I was on the train. I was on the
the
train wagon for quite a long time,
Yeah, I don't know what happened to you. I tried to keep you on it, but
yeah. I mean, my dad was with Train. He worked for Train back in started I think in 1972 or something like that. No,
Smart guy.
He's not here. Yeah. But
should have brought him.
Yeah. It was just one thing led to another, and then we switched over to Amana, and now we're here.
Gosh.
And don't badmouth. Daikin's sponsoring this whole thing.
Who is?
Daikin.
Well, that's like a mother corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah. No mother likes all of their kids the same.
Get out of here.
Not the same. I mean, they're not all the same.
Yeah.
And they have a place in the marketplace, a very strong spot in the marketplace, from what I understand.
Right.
And I'm more of a proprietary guy that, we sell a large variety of 20-SEER, inverter stuff and higher end. And that's just who we target. That's just where we fit.
Do you have any issues with, we haven't talked about like the jobs in quite a long time, but like, do you have you ever go back on issues with airflow on like the 20 SEER inverters and that, like where you're high static pressure and
Every
that?
one of them that are not set up correctly and tuned for the actual duct system. Like if you think you're going to tune a machine in a laboratory,
Right.
send it out in the field and it's going to be at optimal performance, then, you know, you're definitely in for a rude awakening there. So obviously you have to look at the ductwork. Like it's quite often that people will be interested in an inverter, you know, a 20 SEER machine. And unfortunately, I'd love to sell it to you, but you don't have the ductwork for it. You don't have the house for it.
Right.
Especially underneath in a crawl space. And we have so many in crawl spaces. And so the fact that the machine wants to run all the time,
Yeah.
it's going to stay wet.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's no dehumidification, you know, in the crawl space, and if it's not semi-encapsulated, it doesn't have to be completely encapsulated, but you get the point. If it's not controlled, it can be problematic. And I know you, for one, you know how the variable speed motor works. So it's going to go to where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And if it meets with resistance, static pressure, I'm trying to stay off that subject.
Yeah.
Call it what you want. But if it meets with a wall, it just pushes harder.
Yeah.
So if you improperly, I'm not going to say install, I'm going to say application. You know, if you misapply the product to where the rest of its surroundings, the duct system, especially the house, the returns, the setup, don't really support, you know, and cooperate all together mechanically well, you could actually put this thing in and people's power bill goes up from the wattage use of this variable speed blower that is really powerful.
Right.
And so it's just going to push harder. Then you can meet with setup struggles, humidity problems. I mean, you can have all kinds of problems, which you can dial everything in except for their power meter. And that's what they're looking at. You know, that's their big expectation is if I get this big high-end super machine here, my bills are going to go down, right?
Mm.
So there are the problems. To answer your question, there's a lot of times where it's just not applicable.
Yeah.
And unless they're willing to invest another 8 or 10 grand in redoing all the ductwork,
Yeah.
it's not worthy of the 20 SEER machine.
Yeah. I want to ask you too, you know, obviously everyone's moving over to heat pumps. That's like the big push everywhere. And it is by us, and it's coming.
Well,
it's going to happen. Like there's already laws going into place in the Chicagoland area where new construction.
We probably shouldn't get political.
Well, I absolutely agree. We shouldn't get political.
100%.
But I'm just saying,
driven.
I was going to ask you, what do you predict for train? I know the spine fin has been like the way of the world forever, right? And
Was successful.
everyone is going to like the side discharge type mini split equipment. And I'm not just talking about Amana,
Well,
like
everyone
York and
else is doing it.
right. And
Because
that's
they
what
can't do what we do. And they've all tried and failed miserably.
yeah.
You remember in the 80s, I don't know, you're as old as I am, almost.
No.
In the 80s, Carrier tried spine fin. You know, they tried to copy us.
Yeah.
Failed miserably. And, you know, that's, we have our shortcomings and we have our problems, but that's not one of them.
Right.
That's not where we have our massive leaks. And government getting involved and pushing us towards all this, you know, higher SEER and stuff like that is that's certainly what's taken away our copper coils, put us to aluminum. There's our weak point. And so everybody's weak point has now become common, like a common denominator. Everybody's struggling with their, I don't want to mention brand names because they may be some of your sponsors, but
Yeah.
you know, everyone is struggling with their, you know, with their aluminum coil leaks.
Right.
Everybody. And if the train guy tells you, you know, we're not and Lennox is, then he's wrong.
Yeah.
If the Lennox guy or the Daikin guy, the Goodman guy, if he tells you, you know, they're struggling and we're not, you know, that's just not true. I mean, us that, sure, I'm a proprietary dealer for a brand, but I get called out to work on all of them. And so everybody has that struggle.
Yeah.
You know, they really do. And so, but the spine fin is something that Nobody can just seem to get it. I don't understand why. They've taken me in there and showed me that machine. I've looked at that 3-step process that they seal to go from copper to aluminum.
Yeah.
And now, actually, that could actually be welded now or soldered or whatever you want to call it. It could
Right.
be,
They
you
could
know,
change their process.
and it would even be possibly better. But we have that patented 3-step process to go from copper to aluminum that has made it successful for us.
Mhm.
And we've had problems. Any machine is going to have problems. So
Right.
if you're looking for perfection, then that's because you sell 10 systems a year.
Right.
When you sell 300 a year, every year for a period of time, you're going to learn machines are not perfect and you're going to have to fix some of them.
Right.
And let's hope it's a low percentage
Mhm.
and stick with what does well for you. I mean, sure, I'm brainwashed,
Mhm.
train washed, but other brands, people that work with them every day have some success, or they would abandon them.
Right.
We wouldn't have so many. But as far as what you're talking about, my opinion of this, it's basically all inverter technology of these mini split looking, clones of outdoor units matched with standard air handlers. I mean, that's logic to me. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But when you have to start stacking them up and making them gigantic and they're 6 feet tall and they're really ugly, I think you need to revisit figuring out a way to put that in a condenser.
Yeah.
And, I guess at the end of the day, it's all about profit in manufacturing. It has to be.
Mhm.
And profit means dependability too. How many warranty parts they have to give away. So I'm not saying that all they care about is the money and selling boxes, because if they have to keep pouring it out, obviously they lose profit. But I'm guessing at the end of the day, when you can take a particular design like that horizontal discharge you're talking about, the mini split design, when you can take that design and do more with it, more of your applications with it, I guess that's going to be more profitable for the manufacturers.
Right. Yeah.
But my opinion of those, and we have them, it's a 19 SEER. Ours is.
The side discharge. Is
Right.
that an inverter? I know they had I don't think the original
Yes,
one.
it is.
Is
No,
it
it
really?
wasn't. It was designed originally for like coastline and multifamily, like parking garages that have condensers in them, and so that it would blow horizontally,
Right.
and a way to stack them, a way to for the application is what we originally had them for. Everybody did.
Yeah.
And now our 19 SEER is an inverter driven one. But in my opinion, and in most of the trained people's opinion, it's an application necessity. If you need to blow horizontally, discharge horizontally, whatever you want to call it, if you need that for the positioning of the condenser, then it's a great product.
Right.
If that's not necessary, then I personally don't see any need for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the mini splits, when you start stacking them up and having 2 and 4, I saw one the other day with 4 fans outdoor.
Come on.
I'm telling you, I should
Really?
have took a picture of it.
Wow.
You see them with 2 all the time, and they're 5 feet high.
Yeah. I have one of those double stacked. I have one of those Daikin's at my. I have all
Don't
electric
you think
in my
it's
house.
ugly though?
I mean, it's tall.
And see, that's why I said let's not get political,
Yeah.
because there's people that believe there's such a thing as all electric, and that doesn't exist.
Mhm.
They believe there's such a thing as an electric car, and there's no such thing. It doesn't
So
exist.
one thing that I mean,
How are you charging it?
yeah, but here's
You're
the
burning a
thing.
fossil
This is
fuel to
I
charge.
had this question. I had this conversation with Jason Abjute from ESCO. I don't know if you know him, but he's like an author, really smart guy. But that's one of the things that I asked him, like power plants and that. Okay, well, if it's a coal or natural gas power plant, whatever it is, what's the difference, right? And he said they actually do some type of carbon capture, and I can't remember all the details, but like their emissions, there's carbon capture that goes on, and that's like a stringent thing that they focus on. So like, yes, they are burning fossil fuels and that, but it's not like it's just being released.
Well, at the end of the day, it's different in different areas.
Right. Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. There's
But
probably
in upstate
some
South Carolina,
yeah.
where I live, 62% of our power is generated with a fossil fuel.
Right.
The manufacturing of a Tesla, that's the one everybody, if I was going to buy one, that's what I'd buy. I
Yeah.
think they're cool.
Yeah.
I think they're totally
They're
cool,
freaking fast.
quiet, they'll fly. You know, they won't go far, but they'll go fast. But the point is, it produces 17 metric tons of CO during the manufacturing.
Is that how, like, that's
You can look that up.
Okay.
You can look that up.
All right.
A Toyota Camry is right at 7. So there's a 10 metric ton deficit of CO produced to the atmosphere right off the bat in the manufacturing. And then when you plug it in to charge it, 62% of that charge. So basically at the end of the day, you've got a fossil fuel powered battery car that won't go far. So they're starting on the wrong end. And that's why it got politicized when it should have never been that. It should be about the environment for my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And I'd be a big fan if it was. And they should start on the other end. They should start producing power as clean as possible. And we have some turbines, you know, I think solar should be developed more and more and more.
Oh yeah.
I think they should really concentrate. It's just not profitable enough. And it's not really, it can't be politicized for power and gain near as much as this electrification thing is going on here. But to live where you live and drop your gas,
my heat works.
Pump,
so like, here's the thing.
That is nuts, man.
I originally, when I did a load calc on my house using Quick Model, that 3D program, and it was really early on, and I figured out what I needed, and then I installed a 3-ton Daikin Sky Air heat pump, right? Based on my original load. Well, then what I decided, because I was doing some remodeling in my house, is I encapsulated my attic with closed cell foam. And then I also was air sealing everything along the way as well, too.
Yeah.
So I increased the thermal boundary of my house, and then I also made the house a lot tighter. I went back into Quick Model, and I tried to adjust the load to see what I actually needed after doing all that. The problem was I ran the load so early on that the program wouldn't open my file anymore because they've upgraded it since then. I could have called them and had them fix it or whatever, but what I did was so on Daikin units, they have a capacity plug, and the capacity plug, you pop it into the air handler. It's just a little, like a resistor basically. And then you can go through like a programming mode or whatnot, where it figures out basically you're telling it what size it is, right?
Yeah. We call them personality modules.
Yeah. But when you do that, it's also, it limits where the compressor ramps at. So I installed 1.5 tons,
it limits the RPMs of the compressor.
Exactly. The frequency
we
or whatever.
We can do that without anything but a laptop.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so I didn't really know the load of my house, and I just popped in 1.5 tons. And last winter we hit negative 15 degrees. And I remember, like, I was watching the outdoor temperature, and it was like 9 o'clock at night, and I didn't know what was going to happen because, I have a 5 kW backup heat, 5 kW. That's it in Chicago, right? I have like 1,900 square foot house plus a basement.
Yeah, it's not much. Yeah. It's not much backup.
Right. So I let it run, and I'm sitting there watching the outdoor temperature, and I'm watching my indoor temperature, and I got all the way down to like -1 degree, somewhere right around that range. And then I started slipping. I slipped 1 degree. And then I slipped 2 degrees. I slipped a few. But at that point, I didn't even turn on the resistance. I didn't tell the controller that I had resistance backup. So that was straight heat pump at that point. So I'm running off 1.5 tons heat pump all the way down to 0 degrees.
It's running nonstop too.
Nonstop.
Right?
Yeah.
So you like that, huh?
Yeah. But so then once I turned on,
why would you like it to run nonstop?
It's like you're surrounded by comfortable air. It's nice. It ramps up, ramps down, whatever, I do like it. And it makes it more, I noticed it became more comfortable on the heating side, but it became way more comfortable on the cooling side when it ramps way down, but that runs nonstop, especially when it's really hot outside.
Really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the best thing about them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now the heat pumps finally, everybody for years, they've come a long way. They come a long way. And for the longest time, that just wasn't so. I mean, They still ran all the time. They still blew cold air. They still weren't comfortable. But the inverter technology is what changed all that.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is the outdoor fan can ramp way down, so it takes off that wind chill factor, and so when it's cold outside, that fan drawing that cold air across the coil is amplifying that cold, so we can balance the compressor and the fans indoor and outdoor together and squeeze as much, some of those mini splits, I think mine is it's called a hyperheat.
Yeah.
You're familiar with that, Mitsubishi. I know
Right.
you're a Daikin guy, but
Yeah.
it's actually our technology first. But anyway, we won't go there. But just like everything was, actually.
Okay.
Willis Carrier invented air conditioning, and GE put it on the map. And we bought GE in 82, 3, and 4 was that phase period.
That was they took over the refrigerator factory, the GE
Well,
refrigerator
that's
factory.
what put Trane on the map with air conditioning. Prior to that, Trane was nothing but a dadgum Trane, But when we got GE's patents and facilities, we became someone. And we got their we got everything. GE just said, hey, we don't want residential or light commercial. We're going to be industrial only, and we're going to scrap it. So Trane bought it, and that's what put us on the map. So I can't say that we were the great innovators of anything.
And that was actually back in the day. If you see the old GE condensers, those are spine fin condensers. The spine fin was a GE
No, they
thing.
invented everything. They
Yeah.
invented that. They invented the Climatuff, which we finally lost. We got up to about 13 SEER, and you're just not going to get any further with a reciprocating compressor. We finally had to cave in. And that took away our bulletproof compressor. Like, you couldn't kill one of those comparatively. Sure, they failed. And they weren't great on the coast, the big
Rotolock.
would rust. Yeah, that would rust or whatever. So they had that's something you could have dealt with. But,
Right.
but once the government kept pushing, SEER, 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 and they claim it's environment, but it's really they just are maximizing taxes by lowering the load on the grid and adding more and more houses without upgrading grids and getting more, anyway, that's a whole nother,
Getting political.
it's a whole nother world. But,
Yeah.
well, it is what drives our industry, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
They're going to prove that again January 1st. So here we go again. I made a killing off of it the last 2 times. They did it to cars in the early 90s, and I made a bunch of money on R12. And when they did this R22 thing, I seriously made money on that
Yeah.
because I was older and smart enough to buy a bunch of it.
What's going to change in the Trane equipment with the A2L? And what is Trane using R454B?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that look?
Mainly the equipment change. I mean, the characteristics of that refrigerant from the training that I've gotten so far, and I haven't, I've been a bit hostile about it and haven't really paid that close attention, but I'm going to have to cave in, right? But, because it's coming, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
But the characteristics are not that different, really, not drastically from 410A. So we'll be able to install and set them up. I guess the biggest difference is the sensors that are built into coils and air handlers and such that will detect refrigerant leaks. So the biggest thing that the government's doing to us, as far as what they're really doing to hurt the general public, is they're taking away your ability to nurse or neglect a refrigerant leak. And I understand that they don't want you to keep topping them off. You go to a homeowner at, Friday at 4:00,
Right.
July the 3rd, July 3rd, 4:00 Friday. Are we going to really do a test and find a leak and get a coil?
Yeah.
No, we're not. So we're going to top it off and get out there the following week and try to find a leak and keep them comfortable in the process.
Right.
Well, they're taking that ability away. And the sensors will shut the system down. Now, I'm sure somebody will be hacking it. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that thinks you follow rules, whether you agree with them or not. Now, you can fight them, but you need to follow them while you fight them.
I think the thing is, like, you'll be able to make, running a company, you'll be able to make money by doing this, but you're also having to add more labor and more time Because like you said, Friday at 5 o'clock, it's not a simple repair. And if it's
Well, you're not going to repair it.
right,
You're not.
it's a
And they're going to be hot all weekend. And it's July 3rd.
and
You forgot to leave that in.
and I think comfort cooling is probably going to be back. We're going to go back to the days of being a luxury almost, versus right now it's kind of just
taken
standard.
for granted.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's just part of our housing now. But there again, on Friday, July the 3rd, it is likely to be 100 degrees in my area. 98 is 100, you might as well say.
Yeah.
And so for people to have to suffer because the government doesn't want you to neglect a refrigerant leak. I mean, there's just other ways to do this. If this is such an environmental hassle, why not go back to copper coils that don't leak? Okay, and settle it 13, 14, 15,
Well,
SEER, whatever.
I think that the thing that ties back in is what we were talking about before is efficiency. Like then that's why coils are leaking and everything now is because they're thinner and
much
thinner.
Efficiency to torture the public.
Yeah.
It's really not worth it. Now, it's enough torture that we go to aluminum coils and have all these process problems, which we're getting better for a while and now they're bad again. I don't know if it's the robots can't solder or what it is, the little flux plugs,
So that's where you're seeing the leaks at? Is like at all the joints?
In the process, yeah. The flux plug will, not melt perfectly, but it'll meld, is the right word. It'll meld enough to seal it through the leak test. And within a month or a year, a little pop out of it, and there it is, and so that is suffering enough to have to call us. We come out, we interrupt your day, we fill it up, maybe last overnight, maybe for the weekend.
Right.
Okay. But now the sensors on the machine are going to shut it down and we're going to come out there and say, I'm sorry, but
there's nothing I can do.
I'll see you Monday or Tuesday, according to my schedule.
Right.
It's really, really, really a bad thing that they're doing now. To prevent you from neglecting a leak. Now, at first, when I started getting the training, I thought, flammable. Well, I'm supposed to be saying slightly flammable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mildly.
So I thought, whatever. I thought you bring home a 2-day-old infant, with brand new lungs. He doesn't need to be breathing Freon, refrigerant. Or a flammable thing. I'm thinking of the danger, right?
Yeah.
But then as we're studying it, for what little I've listened, because I've been really hostile about the whole thing. I know you can't tell because but regardless, the more I've learned, I've realized I don't think it's that dangerous to breathe in the house, or they probably would never put it in there. But what it really is they're stopping you from neglecting a leak. And
I think they care more about the environment than anything else, right?
Well, they say they do.
Yeah.
But everything is backwards that they're doing. If they really, I'd be a big fan. I got 3 grandkids. I know you have some young kids, and I've already passed that. And I got 3 grandkids, and I would love for them to have all of the great luxuries that I had in life. I mean, I lived at the best time. We had the best music, the best everything. Now, you grew up in similar times.
Yeah.
I'm a 70s kid. You're an 80s kid.
Yeah. I think when I was young, I think they still had sugar and Coca-Cola for a short period of time.
and music was done with actual instruments and not computers.
Yeah.
Right. And you had to actually play.
Yeah.
So you know where I'm coming from.
Right.
I mean, and I would like for my grandkids. So, if the EPA, whoever you want to talk about, if they were really 100% focused on what was good and they weren't doing things backwards to politicize them, like the car thing we talked about, then I'd be a big fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be pushing for it. I'd be on board and I'd devote my life to it. I really would, because nothing matters more than your grandkids. And I think you're going to find that out one day. I told my son the other day, I said, man, if I'd have known they were this great, I'd have just had them first.
Yeah.
It wasn't a funny joke, but not to him, I guess.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, that's the biggest problem moving forward that I see is people are going to suffer. And so I feel like they should weigh this out and try to balance things a little better. I'm pretty sure we're not going to go back to copper coils in 13, 14 SEER.
Right.
Pretty sure that's not going to happen. Now, we had more SEER than that with copper. and with 410.
Mhm.
In other words, eliminating the leaks is what I think the point is. So what you want to do is eliminate, whether it's accidental, whether it's failure, whether it's neglect.
Yeah.
You want to eliminate releasing, all of the
The-
bad components of refrigerant into the atmosphere. And I agree with that. I
Yeah.
really do. But do you really have to make everybody suffer in the process? There's more than one way to skin that cat, and they're skinning it the way that is most profitable for the big lobbyist. And when it comes to politics, lobbying is what should go away.
Yeah.
They should get their money from me and you and nobody else.
We should not dive into politics, probably.
Well,
stay out of that a little bit.
We're still out of it. We're just teetering on the edge. And unfortunately, you're going to have to get out of heating and air if you don't think politics is going to run your life.
Right.
Because it's running heating and air now.
Yeah.
It's really going to impose. So I just wish we were doing other things to prevent releasing it versus sensing it and shutting it down.
I think another thing that we should worry about too is, instead of like, all right, so we're caring about efficiency and all that, and they give all these rebates and tax credits to high-end equipment, but they don't care how it's commissioned. Like, you could just slam in this equipment.
Put it.
Yeah.
They don't care what you do with it.
Right.
So that's why another reason I think SEER is so stupid, and especially on retrofit. And I admit I hate new construct. I'm a change out company. That's I'm a cherry picker.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that. I pick the cherries from the tree, and I don't want the twigs and stems and leaves. And it's hard to make a living in new construction, but that's where these, more stringent codes should be enforced. But where I'm at in the Southeast here, they don't even care. Like, you can even install zoning that doesn't work on a machine that's not designed for zoning.
Right.
And I don't care what anybody says. You cannot effectively and efficiently have variable demand without variable capacity. You just can't do it.
Wait, so break that down and explain what you're saying a little bit better.
Well, what I'm saying is, when you have a machine that is designed to run 100% on or 100% off, and I guess you could argue and say, yeah, but I've got two stage. Okay, well, you're 80 or 70% on or 100% on and then 100% off.
Right.
But your zone sizes are 50-50 upstairs and downstairs, or 40%, 60%, or you may even have a 30% zone. So if you don't have variable capacity, like an inverter, if you can't ramp down and everything communicate and effectively zone,
yeah,
then it shouldn't pass codes.
Right.
And you brought that up. I mean, the point is, you're one of the smartest things I've heard you say. I mean, well, it really is, because you said, that's what led me to this one particular point. I mean, you said they don't care how it's commissioned, right?
Yeah.
That was in other words, this machine has got to be a minimum of 14.3 SEER, but you take it out and do whatever the heck you want to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, that makes absolutely no sense, because of the fact, now, if it was a minority, that'd be different. But the majority of these machines are just stuck on the old duct system. It's probably a spaghetti bowl to begin with.
Yeah.
Old, leaky, and I know you hate flex duct.
Yeah.
And if it's running like that, I 100% agree with you. I mean, installed properly, it's not the most terrible thing in the world. And minimized, and not like flex to flex to flex and distribution boxes. You see all this garbage. So they don't care about that. So I don't understand that. I mean, that was a great point you make. I do not understand why you have to be efficient, but not only to manufacture it. Once it goes out the door, there's
no oversight, and
we don't
and,
care.
and that's
no
one of the
arbitration whatsoever.
I think that's one of the big things with warranty issues, and like,
yeah.
I mean, airflow instead. Like, how often? What do you think on a piece of equipment that you run into? Do you measure static pressure normally? If you, the
wind is blowing from this way. In other words, if
you need to, you're saying
absolutely.
Yeah,
if I need to, I mean, I can show you a couple of nice manometers in my truck.
Yeah.
And my probes have arrows on them.
Yeah, I don't.
whether you need them or not.
I rip
Well, you
them
use
off.
the straight one. Oh, you just paint them over,
Yeah.
sand them off.
Just to spite you.
Don't need them. I hear you.
Yeah.
So, but the point is, if I'm looking at, two 12-inch supplies going off of two trunk lines, and I'm looking at 5 or 6 inches coming off of each one, and I'm looking at rather have a little more on return, but if I'm looking at enough airflow through a decent duct system, no, I don't measure the static pressure. I really don't.
Okay.
Now, in the higher end stuff, you can just read it on the thermostat. You can read it on the air handler. But to put a 14 SEER in, I don't.
Yeah.
But, if it's a problem, I certainly don't want to leave it to where it's going to bother you and me.
Yeah.
And call us back.
One thing I don't know about Train, but most of the equipment that you read static pressure, it's not actually measured in the equipment. It's like calculated static pressure through whatever algorithm they're using in the blower motor. And the same thing with the airflow.
That's the newest way.
And
yeah,
and I know one thing that I have actually measured is when you measure airflow, which I know I don't think you don't have the True Flow grid, do you?
I used to have a hood. I don't even know where it is.
Yeah.
Flow hood. And it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was probably not
up to
not
specs
like
and up to
today.
par. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I have like one of my favorite tools I've ever bought is the True Flow grid. So if I'm measuring the static pressure and the airflow through the equipment, and then I've also referenced what the equipment is, what the equipment says it's moving airflow wise.
yeah.
And then I have a really high end powered flow hood, and then I measured the delivered airflow. You have to keep it in mind duct leakage because it gets a little tricky there. But I found most of the time it doesn't really align because what the equipment is telling you is a predicted or a calculated airflow or static pressure, and it's not an actual measured airflow and static pressure.
Yeah.
And I found that they don't usually line up a lot of the time.
So in other words, you're saying a TAM air handler does not have probes in it any longer.
I don't know. Does
read.
it? You tell me. I'm not super familiar with Train.
Today, they're doing what you're saying, and
Yeah.
they're calculating the RPMs of the blower versus the draw against it,
Yeah.
the drag against it. Like it's almost, how hard are you hitting this brick wall?
Yeah.
And how much resistance? And to be honest with you, it can be measured that way a little more effective than you would think.
I found it
But
to
it
be
doesn't
off by
necessarily-
more than 10%. I found it to be off.
That's a
by-
lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But in the house, it's probably not really, that's kind of more of a showboat thing.
Well,
don't
I
believe
mean,
in the
here's
house.
the
I'd rather
thing.
have my probes in the
I've
return
done.
and supply.
No, I get it, but
or
I
in the, I'd rather measure the coil measure wherever
Yeah.
I think I'm having an issue. I'd rather just look at my manometer.
yeah. But here's the thing, like there's times like, and they're actually, it's getting more and more common now, maybe not in South Carolina, but where they're enforcing like Energy Star homes and I just did a passive house where you actually have to have a third party come in and verify all of your airflow at the equipment, all of the airflow at each one of the individual registers and everything. So it's like, you can't be close. You have to be on, you know what I mean? Like you got to be right on. So that was
that
actually
would mean the building codes are requiring a balance in the house.
yeah. Well, not the building codes. This is like, so the house that I'm talking about is it's a passive house, which is FIAS.
Oh, I know what you're talking
So
about.
it's like a organization that it's like a super strict building standard. You know what I mean?
We had those way back in the 90s and the power company called them max houses.
Okay.
And in order to power rate that they would give you just for your house,
You have to pass all these stringent.
well, it would have to be a particular contractor that's on their list to install it. And there would be requirements, and it would get inspected, not just by the county or the city, but also,
HERS rater or something.
probably
like that.
aftermarket
That might have been.
hired.
Yeah.
But the power company would come make sure. And it was, mostly a mastic, like you could just take if you were a decent designer, you could just take your duct system and put it in and go around and paint the whole thing with mastic or every joint, and that would be considered a max house.
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah. And today things are going to go a lot further than that.
Yeah. Are they doing duct blaster testing? Are they requiring that in new construction by you?
Not if it's spray foamed house, but if it's
unconditioned, like it's the ductwork is in an attic or something like that.
It can be anywhere if the house is spray foamed with insulation. It can have open cell in the walls. It can have open cell everywhere. I like closed cell in my metal buildings and so forth, adding strength and doing, it's a lot stronger envelope, but open cell's a little smarter. So, if you got a roof leak before it rots the whole roof off.
Yeah.
Because you put closed cell foam on the roof and you get a leak, you could rot half of it before you ever even saw it.
Right. I have I did close cell on my roof. I'm actually going to, when I replace the shingles, so I have, the plywood decking or whatever they call it, the sheathing, whatever it is, but I'm going to do another 2-inch of the foam board on top of that.
Right.
And then do a little air gap. So like sleepers, right? And then more plywood.
Yeah.
And, so
that's more of a commercial thing you're talking about. But of course, it's applicable anywhere you want to do it. It's effective. I didn't mean to say applicable. It's effective anywhere you're going to do that. Our TPO roof on our building has the added insulation. But the mainly reason, the reason he did it was because of the corrugated, the ridges. He was able to lay stuff, lay that in and create a flat. So it got doubled. It got some thin layers between each of those ridges and then another flat layer over the whole thing so that the TPO, the white PVC looking roof
foam, you're talking about that rollout stuff roof, or whatever.
So that it would be flat. And then it's spray foamed inside too. So you want to talk about, that's a little bit overdone. It's like an igloo.
Yeah. So with my house, I'm trying to the actual, like when you're filling the rafter cavities with foam, you have a rafter cavity, then you have a rafter, and then you have another rafter cavity. Well, the rafters, you have like thermal bridging, right? So like one thing I noticed, even worse now that I have spray foam in my house, is that when it's really cold outside, as soon as like you have frost or snow on the roof, I see every rafter on my roof.
Oh yeah.
Because now the difference, my attic temperature was cold before because my insulation was on the top of the joist. But now my attic is room temperature. Yeah. So the difference in temperature across the rafters is much larger now, right?
Yeah. So what'd you do about the walls? Don't tell me you tore all the sheetrock off.
No. Well, that's like a process that I'm gonna, as I'm doing different rooms, like renovating stuff, I probably will spray foam them. Right.
Much as you can. So you're just doing all you can.
Yeah. It's an old house, 1960s ish, whatever.
Why would you want a heat pump?
I wanted a heat pump because I had a lot of people calling me for a heat pump in Chicago, and everyone said, like, they call and they say nobody's installing, either nobody's installing heat pumps, or there's a lot of people actually that are saying, I want to go all electric. There's people on the bandwagon that want to go all electric.
And they believe that.
Well, and here's the thing. Everyone is telling them they can't. And I wanted to see, like, how can I do that? Because I want to be the guy that says I can't. Well, that's the thing.
The house needs to support the heat pump.
Absolutely.
Not the heat pump support the house.
And the ductwork, everything.
Absolutely.
It's you can't have 30 or 40% duct leakage on a house if you're going all electric. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, you don't have the extra BTUs to back you up. So,
well, there's a lot more to it than that. And you can't live up north and have a heat pump without doing a lot of things like what you did.
Yeah.
And you're probably not finished.
I'm not. Well, I'm kind of obsessing over it. It's kind of a hobby too. So
if you got a point to prove or whatever, that's fine. Yeah. But if you actually think that you're doing something for the environment, you're drinking the Kool-Aid.
No, I'm doing it just to see if I can do it, you know?
So we can't start on the other end. Us as consumers, as journeymen, as whatever we want to be labeled as. So you're doing what you can.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do.
Right.
I mean, you can vote, then that's all you can do about that.
Yeah.
And then once you accept that and then stick to your life, you'll be a lot less hostile over that. Yeah. And then when it comes to like this project you're working on in your house, you can't go generate the the power, you can't.
No.
You can't.
Although I could add solar panels, but they're, you know what? I put in a request for a Tesla roof. Do you know how much those things cost? It's crazy. Like, who's buying them? I don't think 100. I think they gave me a
Dude,
quote
you
for my
got
small
me.
house, 150 grand or something like
You
that.
got
For
me. But
yeah,
if it was truly about the environment,
yeah,
that would be developed because that's truly clean. So what I wanted to do, and you know where I stand. I'm not the lefty dude, but what I wanted to do was, so I was telling you about my roof, the building,
yeah.
and it's almost flat. It's just barely got pitch up.
On your
If-
shop roof or your
yeah,
house? Yeah,
yeah, my shop, 50 by 90, no trees, wide open.
yeah.
I mean, it's just screaming for solar panels.
Right.
So what I wanted to do was at least half of it filled with solar panels, kind of facing south, and have a couple of these little city vans. I mean, you're not going to make a trip on vacation. I don't think we're ever going to get there with these batteries, but
Like the Ford, you're talking, are you talking about like the Ford
Service
Transits or
trucks.
whatever?
yeah, but they have bigger ones now. I mean, they have buses now, so they have everything.
Yeah.
So if I had, because see, if it could be truly electric, I'm a fan.
Mhm.
If it's like those memes you see when you're parked on the side of the road with a diesel generator charging your electric car and
Yeah.
I'm an electric car, that
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. Now I realize that's drastic for the sake of the meme, but
Yeah.
all of our power, more so and less in different areas of the country, is generated by a fossil fuel. So I don't want to watch a dog chase his tail. So what I wanted to do, and I've had 2 companies come and look at it and tell me that I can't do it.
Why is that?
Apparently it's illegal to have solar panels that are not tied to the grid.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's jacked up right there. So if I buy them myself and pay for them and put them on my roof that I pay taxes on and I own, I have to create this giant capacitor and stick it on their grid to help soften their load on their grid.
Well, I think you have to tie to the grid, but I mean, you could always do batteries, but that's,
I don't want to do either.
yeah,
I want to charge my vehicles and be truly,
off the grid and all.
well, I don't
Fully,
want to be off
like-
the grid. I just want my vehicles to be, I'm not going to buy an electric vehicle unless it's actually electric.
Yeah.
And everybody that has them, they're drinking the Kool-Aid, man. It's not an electric car. It's a fossil fuel powered battery car. So if I could get a couple of these little city vans and plug them in and charge them totally clean, tell me I wouldn't be doing something. Tell me that I wouldn't really then be driving a clean vehicle as compared to one that's burning a fuel. And I would do it in a minute.
Mhm.
And I thought the guy, maybe he was hung up on these government programs that give you assistance when you're selling them or installing or whatever. So I called another one. I've had 2 solar companies come out to quote this. And they're telling me, now I don't know this, I'm not an attorney, not all that smart of a guy, I'm just a mechanic, but I guess I could do some research. But what I'm told is it's illegal to have solar panels that are not connected to the grid. Now, obviously, you can buy these little toys
Yeah.
at Harbor Freight and play with those and turn a light bulb on. But to fill your roof with them and capture any significant amount,
You can't do it.
it's illegal unless you tie it to their grid, to their power grid. And I
Yeah.
have no interest in that. I don't want them to pay me for what I don't use. I don't want them to,
Which
I want to
that's-
create the true clean system.
That's I mean, it's your prerogative. You know what I mean? You could want what you want.
I'm a little more honest than they are. And so that's just the way I see it. Now, I could be this great old hillbilly conspiracy theorist if you want to, I'll take that label.
I think that was one of the first things I ever called you, was a hillbilly.
You still do. You did a minute ago when I got here, when we was talking to that guy. Well, you went along with it. I don't think you called it that. But yeah, and you're a Yankee.
Yeah.
Big deal. I don't think that hurts your feelings.
No.
It certainly doesn't hurt mine.
Yeah.
And I drink my Kool-Aid and you drink yours.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I did want to do that. And I did want to have, so I could really actually be doing something for the environment, because I would like to. They've drawn everybody's attention to it. Okay, now it's time to get honest with it and really make something happen, nobody's ever going to look at the true causes because they're ugly. Overpopulation. That's ugly, man. You could get communist right quick, like if you tried to do something about that. So we have to work with what we can work with. And tell me solar isn't clean. Now, I know you have to manufacture these things, and I know there's waste in everything that we manufacture. But as far as what we're actually doing and driving and moving and propelling and making power, that is a super clean. And now they're not even ugly anymore. They're developing these shingles, right? I know you've seen them.
They're expensive, but yeah.
I get it. But so were computers. My first computer was like $3,000 in the early 90s, and it wouldn't even show a picture.
Right.
And so now they're $500-600 and they'll run your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So solar could be developed.
Well,
now,
and I think
this big solar advocate. I'm just
and as it comes out, like
that's
I think that's the future too, and that's the hopes with heat pumps. That's one of the things that I found is like, when you look at your electric bill, it's expensive, and mine's more expensive than probably most running a heat pump when it's negative 15 degrees outside in the winter. But if you look at it, half of what I'm paying is the delivery charge. Now, if you cut the bill down by using solar or whatever, and the thing is, like, I wouldn't be able to get much solar in the winter, but you would also build up, you get your net metering and that and whatnot from. And
you got trees?
I do, until I'm going green, and I'm going to cut down all my trees so I can install solar.
So you can stop producing oxygen, right? I think if you cut a tree, you should have to plant one.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just me, But the bottom line is I would really love to do something that actually is doing something. I just don't want to drink any more Kool-Aid. I drink it every day. Like I said, I'm train washed. I'm drinking that Kool-Aid. That ought to be enough for me, man. I ought to not have to drink anymore.
Yeah. You do a lot with train. That's
well, it's I believe in sticking to it.
I know whenever I've had an issue with a 20 SEER inverter or whatever, you're the one I call. Like I'd rather talk to you about it than call some of the tech support guys out there.
With you.
Yeah.
And plus, I've stumbled into that.
Yeah, I mean, if you've installed hundreds of them,
I have.
Yeah, you've gone through it.
Yeah, and the FSRs though, man, they are incredibly smart.
I never had access. There's different states, right? There's
you have tech support, and that's not quite an FSR, in my opinion.
Well, we don't have we're not direct with train.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You deal with distributors.
Yeah.
And they have tech support that has to meet the standard of the factory. But that's it. The direct states have tech support that are trained at the factory.
Right.
So our guys, I know a couple of them personally, and a really good guy, really, really smart mechanics too. But they get to go to the factory and they get to have training direct with the manufacturers. And, you want to talk about shortcuts. I mean, if you're having a problem, plus the sophistication of the built-in diagnostics has come so far now.
Yeah.
I mean, a long way. And we have 180 maybe error codes now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's intimidating.
There's a bunch. Maybe they start at 99 and I'm looking at 100 thinking it's 180, whatever.
Right.
But I know that we have,
there's a lot.
184, 180, those are common ones. We have 60s and 90s. I've never seen an error code 001.
Yeah.
Or 011001. So I don't know what the numerical figure is. I just know that, like you say, it's intimidating. There's a lot of error codes. And it can tell us a lot, actually, from our computer at home before we ever go there. So I'm going to say 7 times out of 10, we can go with the part or the sensor or the jug of gas or whatever it is. We can go to that job already knowing what's wrong.
Right.
And that's impressive, man. That just really, I dig it.
Yeah.
I really do.
But that's on the high end stuff. You know, I mean, even the lower end equipment, I guess, has better diagnostics now. I did notice that with like the S model.
Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And I'll tell you this, that dealing with that diagnostic in the high end really will teach you better diagnostics in your basic mechanics. It really will. I mean, because every symptom points to something and you learn a new rabbit trail, you learn a new, I mean, I'm in my 35th year and I could go learn something today or tomorrow.
Well, if you want, we got classes going on all the time here, like for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could neglect work long enough to be a part of all of our training.
Yeah.
Like the train, you know, the DSO especially offers a lot of training. Yeah. We don't even have to pay for it.
Right.
They used to give us lunch, and then COVID comes along and changes the world. Mm-hmm. So now, you know, the classes are all over at 12 o'clock.
I'm by design.
Absolutely.
So they don't have to pay for the pizzas.
Absolutely. Oh no, we got good. We had Mexican. We had caters. We did pretty well.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, everybody loved going to the training class.
Yeah. Well, we're not skimping here. There's some good food. So are
there any train classes here?
There's no train.
So how am I going to gain from?
You got to look at your class list.
I'll go to one class, and if you have a class that'll help you learn how to point a static pressure probe into the airflow and when you need to and when you don't to, I'll go to that class with you.
All right. There's actually somebody here that we could talk to about that. Somebody that worked for.
Oh, I was bluffing, man. I got to get back to work in just a minute. I think you might have won that argument a long time ago. I took the thing and I
don't want to beat a dead horse, but
I spun it around everywhere.
Yeah.
And I did my best. And I think one time, I mean, and it was less than one, it was like 0.3, you know, I was barely able to get
any kind of change. Yeah.
I was looking for something that I could go back and argue with Adam with, you know. And I mean, there are times where it needs to point in the airflow instead of just being a straight probe. That's why it's 90 degrees. But it's not necessarily going to read any different. I've not been able to find that time.
Yeah.
And I tucked them up in corners. I did everything I could.
Yeah.
I was about to start cheating.
There's times where you could like get a weird spot where there's like a weird current of airflow. But like, even if you're in a weird current,
it shouldn't be reading there anyway.
Yeah. But I was told by somebody that used to work for Dwyer. Dwyer made the Magni Helix, right? And the static pressure tips. If you look at the holes, they're directly across from each other. So everyone says you don't want the holes to face the airstream. And I'm like, well, when they do face the airstream, it doesn't seem to do anything. And that's because the holes are directly across from each other and the air passes right through the holes in the static pressure tip.
Well, I brought two with me and I have a magnifying glass.
I wouldn't be surprised if you did, to be honest with you.
No, I didn't even look at that. I mean, I studied them with magnifying glasses, every point you made, and I'm pretty sure you found a way to debunk everything I said. You know, you were never able to tell me why they have arrows on them.
Well, the guy from Field Piece is here right now, Tony Gonzalez. We could ask him and see what he says. I'd rather
ask him, you know, when do I get a new trial program to get a new product or something?
Yeah.
Ask him that, but
you could probably sign up for that.
I would imagine it's a very simple. Oh, they've sent me stuff before.
You're a big Field Piece.
I'm a really big fan. They don't need to do anything to. I'm as washed with them as I am with Train, but you know they would tell the same thing I did so that you know where it is.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to give us anything further than that. You know, but the reason they're there is just so you know where it is, because you know, is there positive pressure in a return?
Negative pressure.
Is there positive pressure in a supply?
Positive pressure, yeah.
So why aren't all the probes just straight? Why do they have a 90 on them? And why do they have an arrow on them?
That's a Steve Rogers question.
It ought to be an Adam question because Adam was the one arguing with me about it.
I don't know anything about. I couldn't tell you the details or the physics on a straight.
Two arguments I ever lost in my whole life.
Yeah. What was the other one?
Can't remember. I'm still working on it. Still trying to.
I did get up in my pajamas to make a video for you.
Man, that was.
I heard
iconic.
about that for like 2 years from you.
And I recorded that video, and it's on an old hard drive because I was scared you were going to delete it one day and take it away from me, like John Israel did that time. He did this train bashing video, you know, and I gave him a nasty comment on it.
Oh yeah. You
Whatever.
guys argued about that for quite a while, I remember. And then you became good friends.
He made I really wish him well. I think he's doing a lot better for himself than he was in those days, at least. But he made another video to follow that up.
Yeah.
He looked at the camera and he said, and you blank, blank, blank. I know you're watching. I know who you're talking. You know who I'm talking about. It's like, man, I'm flattered. I got this dude freaking out over me.
Yeah.
But anyway, I saved that video after he finally took it down when we became friends. And I called him. I said, man, dude, you took my video down. I mean, me and my kids have been laughing.
I took it down. I took that video down too, by the way. It's gone.
You did?
Yeah.
Too late. I recorded it. I learned. John Israel taught me that one day you might take that. And I know you didn't take it down because you said, stop commenting, Ted. So I never commented on another one of your videos.
You did.
After that.
You see,
Well,
you got to be careful what you wish for.
I did as you asked.
Yeah.
But I think you took it down because the camera was showing your socks. You're standing,
Did I have like Christmas socks on or something?
Probably something really goofy and fuzzy, you know, because you're a Yankee and it's cold up there. But you were standing on a concrete floor in your basement.
Yeah.
Next to your furnace in your socks with pajamas on.
Yeah.
And that's probably why you took it down. Not because we were arguing.
I took all my videos down.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I'm leaving YouTube up to the professionals like you, you know.
I tried my best to drag you along. And you just couldn't afford to put the time in it.
I didn't enjoy making the videos or editing the videos. You know what I mean? I didn't like that part of it.
You got to learn to edit while you shoot.
Yeah.
You got to learn to not shoot bad footage, and then you'll minimize editing. You won't eliminate it.
Right.
And then a lot of times you'll be saying something and you'll cough. So you'll have to repeat it.
Yeah.
And then you got to go edit that out if you're rolling the whole time. But,
yeah.
You know, there's little tricks to it, but you're right. It takes time.
But you're one thing that I think is awesome is you still sometimes film when customers are next to you, and they're
not
called
their face.
No, but I hear you talk to them.
But they're helicoptering.
I got a helicopter here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Anyway, sorry, I was looking at a text there.
It's all good.
The helicopter thing, I mean, there's one or two times where you didn't realize the customer is watching your videos. There's one or two times where they didn't like that.
Really?
Yeah, and said something to me about it. Just a smart remark, like,
yeah,
well, I don't want to be a helicopter.
Huh.
Like, did I say that out loud? I don't think I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to where I would with somebody I knew. Like if I'd been taking care of that customer for years and we had kind of gotten to know each other. I mean, I have customers that I see at the lake.
Yeah.
You know, we do things together or somewhat together, you know, run into each other, see them in restaurants. I mean, you stay in business in one town for 35 years, you can't go anywhere. Can't go to the shopping mall, can't go in a restaurant. You're going to see customers. So that's one real reason. Stay honest.
Yeah.
Show up and fix your, you know, stay good for your word, because you're going to run into them and you don't want that embarrassment. You know, there's that guy that wouldn't fix my unit, you know, whatever. But yeah, and those are the good old days. I don't know why I couldn't drag you into YouTube. You liked it at first. You got to admit, you really liked it.
Well, we did you know, it's the whole live stream thing. I like the back and forth type deal. That's what I enjoy. And you know what? Like one thing I noticed, we've been talking recently and we have not put much effort into it. It's just we've been doing it for over 5 years now. So it's like, you know, it's kind of like we're just tired, you know. So we actually talked about not doing it anymore. I'm throwing this out there. I know they're probably gonna get pissed off at me, or you know, they're gonna be irritated because I said that. But we want to start doing something fresh. We're gonna talk about it, you know. But like imagine every Friday or nearly every Friday for 5 years doing the same thing where you can't hang out with your family. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's a lot, you know?
Well, and one problem is you don't have an administrative chain of command still, do you?
No. We
See,
all just like,
that's a major
yeah.
problem. That's
Yeah.
what backed me out of it all. That's what made me say, well, I think once Zach fired me from sponsoring one time.
Zach fired us too. So
Well, everybody's been fired, but I love Zach, man. He's a
I
good dude.
actually
He
invited
came-
Zach to come here. He's not that far from here, I don't
Well, he
think.
works a lot.
Yeah.
He's just not doing HVAC.
Yeah. But it would have been cool. There's a lot of people here that would have gotten a kick out of meeting him in person.
He came and I met him finally.
Yeah.
So, we didn't have a lot of time together, but I think he was taking one of his kids to the zoo. We got a big zoo in South Carolina, in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So I was privileged enough to get him to stop by on the way and spend an hour or two with me. And he's really a good guy.
Yeah.
He could be a bit standoffish from time to time on camera or on YouTube. It could make you think that, I don't know if this guy, I'm ever going to be friends with. He's a real dude, man. He
And that's,
showed up.
we're talking about Zach from HVAC Shop Talk. He's
Right.
like one of the original
He really
HVAC
is.
YouTubers.
Oh yeah. He's part of that original community.
Yeah.
But he's really a good guy, man. I'm glad I met him.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'd say the same thing about me. I mean, we enjoyed the time we had together, and I just hope one day I can hook up with him again, maybe get dinner,
Yeah.
lunch or something,
Right.
but no, he's a great guy. He really is. And he was in the middle of some of that, and I got to give him credit. He didn't stoop as low, like through all the John Israel
Yeah.
arguments and through all the different drama and different stuff. Now you got to give the guy credit. I know he fired you. He fired me.
He fired everybody. You're
Well,
fired.
But
You're
he
fired.
rehires people too.
Yeah.
He does another project with you later,
Yeah. Right.
but he just, out of the blue may say, look, I'm shutting this down.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you're coming up with.
We're gonna fire ourselves, maybe. Not really, but I
I
don't
don't know
know.
about shutting down, but
Yeah.
you're talking about changing.
We're
it
gonna
up a
change
bit.
something up. It's
Okay.
been with 5 years is a lot.
Get a little monotonous.
Yeah.
The chain of command would have helped all along the way, but it would have also hurt.
Yeah.
No good deed goes unpunished, and everything cost on both ends. You're not going to have gain without some pain.
Right.
And I just still think that would have been a smarter thing to do, but because now all four of you have to agree,
Yeah.
and you don't have one guy that's like the founder.
Right.
I think you'd probably be the oldest running member.
I think, well, me and Joe are pretty much tied. We, and you
No,
know
Joe
why?
came along.
Nope. I met Joe the same night that I met John Israel. And that was,
But we're talking about live shows. We're not talking about when you met each other.
I couldn't tell you. I think Joe was there from the beginning. He was even with on all the hangouts with John Israel. He would show up. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember him because,
I think
to
me
be
and
honest
you-
with not
we-
much personality. I just
He's like a cardboard
I don't
box.
remember him, and I think he's fake. I don't think his name's Joe.
Yeah. No, I think he's in the witness protection program. We're all kind of wondering.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, have you ever met him?
No.
Does
No. I have met Chris, and Chris
Think
is
you
really
will.
short. Chris is like super short.
he? Is he?
Yeah. And he's the exact person you see on YouTube.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
who he is.
Oh yeah, you can't fake that.
Yeah.
Is that why he's such a hothead? Does he have short man syndrome?
Maybe. I
He's
don't
not
know.
really a hothead. He's just a potty mouth. He's just really filthy.
He's
mouth,
he's gotten better recently. Bill is like 7 feet tall. He's huge. He's probably not 7 feet, but he's pretty big. And he's exactly the same as on. I think we all kind of are. We're not.
Oh,
putting
you're
on,
pretty much yourself except for Joe.
Yeah.
I don't know why Joe. And he just could be a private person. There might
Yeah.
not be any,
Yeah.
history of something to hide. There
I
might
think
not.
the
He just
thing
might
is,
be a
it's like
private person.
there's a
That's
lot of buildup behind it, and that's why we keep focusing on
keep
it.
running with it,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Bill seems like, man, that dude's a trip.
Yeah. He's funny.
He's a, he's definitely not lacking in personality.
Yeah.
So I think he's probably been a positive addition to your crowd there.
Right.
Yeah, Bill's a trip, and the off the cuff thing. That's what's good for live.
Yeah.
You know, being able to come up with
Do it
something
fast.
just a response to something really quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you try to get him, probably not going to happen. Probably not going to get him.
Right.
In fact, you may step in a hole.
The
pretty
best part
sharp.
about it is he's like, he has no reaction to it. Like he'll just say it and he's just
Certainly
straight.
make you think that anyway, can he?
Yeah.
He's good at it, man.
Yeah.
And he just does that voice and just tells you whatever, man. You know, he doesn't react. He appears not to be the reactive type.
Mm-hmm.
And that's entertainment value, man. I mean, you can cut it any way you want. I mean,
Yeah.
like him or not like him. I mean, there's nothing entertaining about a car wreck. But let me see you ride by one and not look.
Yeah.
Try to look away.
Right.
And everybody calls it rubberneck, and you're looking at the wreck when you go by.
Yeah.
There's nothing entertaining about that. Nothing good about it, but you're gonna look.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bill has that personality, man, that he can just capture you pretty good. I don't think he even tries.
Yeah.
I think he's just being himself.
Right.
If he is acting, he's really good at it, and he missed his calling, and he needs to put those wrenches down and go try acting. So,
I think he should. I think he could do stand-up comedy. I think he would be huge at,
but he's not acting.
No, he just has to.
Well, then, stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
That may be something streamlined.
Yeah.
But actors have to be different characters.
Right. He's him. That's
He
why I'm
probably
saying
wouldn't
like
be able to do that.
like
but
he
that
could
is
do
natural.
comedy.
That's why I
Yeah.
said if he's acting,
Yeah.
he's really good at acting.
Yeah. No,
That's
he's
for
not.
sure.
That's like I stayed with him. I stayed at his house. That's him.
Yeah.
There's no difference ever. He's always the same person.
I like to
So-
stay at Joe's house for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes. That's
Yeah.
all. Just want to meet the guy. Just want to ask him, dude, what are you so worried about? What's so
Yeah.
private?
Right.
What are you hiding, man? We all like you,
Mm-hmm.
sort of. So, I mean, there's only so much a man can like a man.
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't want to move in. I just like to go there. It's only because it seems like the taboo. Like, I'm pretty sure you could show up on Chris and he'd let you in and talk to you and sit down and
Yeah.
give you
No, Chris is like he makes you feel welcome. He's like your best friend. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Pretty sure you could show up on Bill. Pretty sure I could show up at your house. Now, you'd be quite shocked, but I think you'd let me in.
Oh, I would. Yeah.
And your wife would say, "Get that hillbilly out of here." I don't know what she would say. I've never talked to her.
It's kind of funny though that we've and that's like this NCI summit where we're at right now. It's people from all over the country, and I never thought I was gonna be associated or friends with somebody from South Carolina or whatever. I'm from Chicago or Tennessee or California or Michigan or whatever, and it's like we meet all these people and we're completely different, but we're friends. You're developing these relationships is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely different, but I think we have some common interest. You and I, at least.
Yeah.
I think we have some common ground that we're able to attract each other's interest.
Yeah.
I mean, I got you to argue with me
Yeah. Oh yeah, you
a
did.
bunch.
Absolutely.
So how long are we supposed to be here?
We should probably wrap it up. Yeah, there's gonna be another one starting soon. So I appreciate you coming. If you want to hang out, that would be awesome.
I will fumble around some for sure.
Absolutely. So
It's really
everyone,
good-
we're on
really
3
good to meet
channels
you,
right
I'll
now.
tell you that, man.
Yeah, no.
I definitely would like to become a bigger fan of NCI, but honestly, they hired you, and that's what got me I came up here to meet Adam.
That's awesome. I
So
appreciate that.
That's the reason I came here.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that I wouldn't for others, but I'm saying that let's say that the company contacted me. Companies contact me all the time,
Yeah.
but one of my buddies is there and
Mhm.
saying, "Hey, I'm going to be there." Like, here's the thing. If you were an hour away from me
Hmm.
and didn't contact me, I got to be honest with you, that hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
I'd be upset about that.
Right.
Like, if there was something that you could give up 1 hour of your time
Yeah.
and come meet me and you didn't do it, man, I'd never argue with you again.
Yeah. And I'd love to come and hang out at your house, but we're just kind of booked up here. That's the only issue. But this is
Well, life's not over yet.
yeah, no. And I'm hoping I can get you to come out in the Chicagoland area at some point. I don't know if you're gonna ever do it, but that would be cool.
Don't I need to stay like with you so you can show me where, daytime?
Well, I'm a little bit west, so I'm in an area where you don't have to be nervous about.
More of a suburb. So we're not going to get like in the middle of some action.
Yeah.
Unwanted action
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see the city though.
Yeah.
And so without someone that knows where we're going, it's like going,
I'll take you
any place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you won't throw me in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
Bring your wife,
Well, I certainly would if I
Yeah.
visited Chicago, because that's a place I've never been. And I know you've seen all the pictures and stuff. I mean, it's a quite impressive skyline, all those
I've been there, man. I lived
couple
there.
times.
Yeah. Once or twice.
Yeah. So I would definitely like to visit.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I'll get a hotel. You don't have to let me in the house. You got to let me in for a minute. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to stay there.
Cool.
Influence your children or nothing. Turn them into little rednecks, man.
We definitely don't want that.
Well, hey, why not? Dude, come on, man. You can build one of them a drag car, can't you?
Yeah.
Don't you have some
Absolutely.
boys? You got boys, right?
By the way, I just wanted to mention one other thing. So Ted brought, I just clunked this thing around, but I had a leaky AC line in my 67 Fury 3, and I was trying to source it. You can't get them.
No, you can't buy that.
And Ted's like, send it to me. I'll see what I have. And you actually had it. He had it custom made, which was awesome.
A buddy of mine made it. But we had to cut your ends off and weld them onto a different type of end and make the hose. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just that there's not enough 67 Sport Furies running
for them to
around
manufacture
to make them manufactured. And so it's a custom application. And, he basically works at a hose and hydraulic place. And I walked in there. His boss was the first one. I had to see him. Of course, hey, where's Mike?
Yeah.
But his boss just was shaking his head like this. When I walked up to the counter, I laid it on the counter. He was doing that. Man, don't make me face Adam empty-handed. I'm thinking, man, something's got to happen here. I went through all my stuff. Apparently, and I don't know what it is about the particular engine in that particular body, but apparently they're different from any B bodies. I thought it was a B body car, particular size. And I mean, I've scrapped out wagons. I've got a lot of parts. I'm a Mopar guy.
Right.
So for me not to have one of those, and who knows, it would have been old and leaky too, probably.
Right.
So, the guy's shaking his head no when I'm walking up, like, I don't have any of those ends. I don't have none. So, well, is Mike here? And he came out and he said, well, it's not going to look pretty, but if you can let me cut yours off here and here, we'll put them on a couple of our fittings and just weld it and put the hose on it.
It looks
like, dude, this
I think
dude will be very happy to get it, period.
Yeah, no, it's pretty. He did a really nice job.
As far as the welding, I think is better than you and I could have probably done.
Yeah. No, he that was the first call I made. I'm like, if somebody knows Mopar, it's gonna be Ted.
And yet you don't want me to influence your kids with redneckism.
No. Thank you though.
Probably few and far between that it becomes useful. So, but the bad problem is, especially around the race cars and stuff, kids jump into, they get attracted to that. So I raised mine protecting them from stuff I didn't want them to get into.
Yeah.
So I fully understand and I know how to assimilate. So if I ever visit your house, we're going to be in support of the parental guidance that takes place in the house.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I don't drink anymore. I've been sober over 30 years now. July the 8th was 30 years this past July. So you don't have to worry about, the real me coming out in front of your kids.
Yeah. I'm 3.5 in. You knew me when I was drinking, but it's been 3.5 years since I quit drinking.
Was ever excessive or anything?
No, it was, it was just something I wanted to get better at not doing. I feel better. So
really?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was ever an issue. Well, and there again, you've always been pretty smart. We just got video, didn't we?
Yeah.
I had to admit that on video.
Oh, thank you.
Well, so
I approve.
Maybe you just quit before it was ever able to be a problem.
Yeah. Well,
maybe
the jury's out. I don't know.
Well, it's not going to
We're
have
both on the
anything.
same train,
That's
though.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
ain't gonna matter now because it's not there.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
you done good. Now you got to quit smoking
Thank you. All right, we're
and
gonna
start
get,
playing the bass again.
we're gonna get out of here, but yeah, we're just chatting with you from the National Comfort Institute NCI's summit in Asheville, North Carolina.
I'm gonna try to learn a little bit more about that while I'm here and see if there's anything that I can gain or offer.
Oh, I guarantee you there are.
I'm gonna look around,
Yeah,
see what's going on here. But once again, it was really great to meet Adam.
it was great to meet you. You took time out of your day. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Click.